Good afternoon, everybody, and welcome back to another installment of Scott's Selections here for Tuesday, June 25th. Before we get into the play of the day, we'll quickly recap what happened yesterday. We ended up having no play of the day in baseball on a very limited card. However, some of the initial leans that we thought would potentially win ended up winning. Happens, but we ended up not pulling the trigger on anything. Main lean was on the Yankees over, but I thought the line looked a little bit sketchy, so we stayed away. But overall, if you ended up following my tennis pick, then yesterday was not a complete loss as we ended up picking up a nice tennis winner there. But we will be back for the play of the day. We're also right about the under in the Giants-Rockies game, but we will be back today with a play of the day. And we're going to be looking at an AL Central matchup, which should be taking place at 7:10 Eastern Time. And we are going to be looking at a total between the Indians and the Royals, as we will be taking the under 9.5 in this game. And that line is currently available at Pinnacle at minus 114 to the under, which is the best line available at time of recording of 12:22 p.m. Eastern Time. And the main reason why we like this total is because of the fact that you have Sparkman versus Bieber in this matchup. Sparkman, pretty solid season so far, 2-3 with a 3.62 ERA. Bieber, 6-3 with a 3.86 ERA. Plus, both offenses haven't really been playing that well lately. If you look at the recent results for these teams, the Royals have gone under 9.5 in 4 of their last 5 games, where the Indians, in their case, have actually held their opposition to 3 runs or less in 4 of their last 5 games. So they have been pitching extremely well, and I definitely expect that to continue in this one. Bieber itself, you might be wondering why the total was so high at 9.5, and that is mostly due to wind, as there is projected to be roughly 10 miles an hour of wind to right field for today's game. So I get the fact that people immediately bet the over because of the fact that there will be some wind. But with the Royals, I mentioned previously, without Mondesi in the lineup, who's currently injured, I really don't know how this team is supposed to score. If you look at the projected lineup, which is on RotoWire, it's supposed to be Merrifield, who's solid player. You have Nicky Lopez, who's not much to write home about. Alex Gordon is well past his prime. And you have Dozier, who's okay. Soler is pretty much a home run or bust player. You have Cuthbert, not great. You have Artaga, who's a relative unknown. Maldonado is okay. And then you have Billy Hamilton, who's fast, but he hits about 180. So overall, that lineup itself, I don't really know how they're going to score against Bieber. I know that Bieber has been extremely solid this season. Also, in his last start, he managed to go 7 innings. While he only went 6 innings, I should say, while only giving up 2 earned runs, struck out 8 guys. He has been very solid this season at home as well, as he is 2-1 with a 3.8 ERA at home. And at night, his ERA is a little bit higher at 4.25, but he is 4-2 in those starts. Overall, he's just a very solid pitcher, and the Royals are definitely not at 100% with Mondesi out of the lineup. So I would not be surprised to see Bieber go another 6 or 7 innings, giving up 2 earned runs. I definitely think the Royals should struggle. Meanwhile, I'm going to analyze Sparkman real quick. He's been very solid this season, and he's kind of been a relative shock for the Royals, as he has been pretty much turned into a starting pitcher from a reliever in the beginning of the season, coming off a fantastic start in which he went 7 innings and gave up 1 earned run. He's kind of a contact-based pitcher, doesn't strike out too many guys, but at the same point, he has been very solid this season. Now, his away stats are a little bit concerning, as he has a 7.82 ERA on the road, as he's given up 11 earned runs in 12.2 innings. However, there is a massive outlier there, as he did give up 4 runs in 1 inning to the White Sox back in May. So that kind of inflates the rest of his numbers. However, since that start, he was okay against the Twins on June 15th on the road, in which he went 5 innings, gave up 4 earned runs. His other 3 starts, though, at least 5 innings with only 1 or 2 earned runs. He's definitely pitched really well during the month of June. And based on how the Indians have been hitting lately, they've been pretty hit or miss. I know that Lindor's been playing well, and I know that Kipnis had the big hit yesterday, and Jose Ramirez is batting a little bit better. But I also know that Jake Bauers, who's been a pretty solid player for the Indians so far this season, he is currently dealing with an ankle injury, and he might not play in this game. His average isn't that great, but he has decent numbers against Sparkman, but he will not be. He probably won't play in this one out of a precautionary measure. But the lineup so far for the Indians is projected to be Lindor, Mercado, Santana, Kipnis, Ramirez, Bradley, Bowers, Perez, and Naquin. Is that an awful lineup by any means? No. But do I think that that's a good enough lineup to score the bulk of a 9.5 total? No. I know that the Royals bullpen's not great, but I think Sparkman should go at least 5 innings, give maybe 1 or 2 earned runs. I think you'll see this turn into a 4-3 kind of game, maybe 5-4, but I definitely don't see this getting over the 9.5 here. So for me, I'm going to lean to the under 9.5 in this matchup, and that will be the play of the day. Now, moving on to the rest of the baseball card, we'll go into my leans. First game I'm going to talk about is between the Yankees and the Blue Jays. Shockingly, it's already past noon, and the Yankees have not even announced who's going to be pitching today. I know that Clayton Richard will be pitching for Toronto, and I feel like that's all you need to say is he's currently 0-3 with a 7+ ERA. Definitely not a solid job so far this season, and based on the Yankees' performance yesterday, scoring 10 runs, you'd Stan, who finally homered for the first time this season. I lean to the Yankees. The game got close yesterday because Jonathan Holder was still put into games for some reason by Aaron Boone. Don't know why. He's been sent down, though, to the minors, so you don't have to worry about him potentially ruining your bets in the future. Lean to the Yankees, and I lean to the over. Richard should struggle in this one, and I expect the Yankees to score at least 6 or 7 runs in this game, so I will lean to the over in that one, and that total is currently posted at roughly 12. I lean to the over. I think the Yankees should score at least 7 or 8 runs, and I think it should get over. Moving on, you have the Phillies versus the Mets with Lockett versus Arrieta. Lockett was awful in his first start. He's got an ERA of roughly 22 right now. And Arrieta has had a solid season. His record's not great, but he has a 4.12 ERA. Definitely not the Arrieta type of stats we're used to. But the Phillies have also underachieved as they are 40-38 right now. They did end the losing streak yesterday. And for me, I actually thought about giving this out as play of the day as well. I like the Phillies on the first half minus a half spread, which is available at minus 115 in some spots. For me, after what happened yesterday and after the whole issues with Callaway, I don't know if you heard this rumor. There's something that's been going around and it was posted by ESPN, which I linked on my Twitter, where it said that the Mets front office has decided to make the in-game decisions instead of the manager. So my question for you is, if you can't trust your manager to manage games, then why is he your manager in the first place? Overall, the Mets are just in turmoil right now, and the Phillies, although they were struggling last week and they had a 7-game losing streak or so, they still have a solid team, and they're still a better team than the Mets, and they definitely have the pitching advantage in this one with Arrieta against Lockett. So for me, I'd lean to the Phillies in the first half minus a half on that spread at roughly minus 115, as I think the Phillies should win this game relatively easily. Quick question from Ed Jones. Where can I find the lines for yesterday? Looking for what the price of the Yankees team total was for yesterday's game. In terms of team totals, I really don't know the answer to that question. I don't know if you can find that out. However, in terms of the actual spreads, I personally use SBR odds for all the spreads, and you can search them up by calendar and look at what the lines were yesterday. However, you can tend to deduce what you think the team total would be if you look at the actual total. So, for example, I'll look through the yesterday's card for the Yankee game. The Yankees total yesterday was at 10.5, and the Yankees were roughly a minus 240 favorite, which means that the Yankees team total should have been roughly around 6, and that would be my assumption of what the team total was. However, in terms of actually finding out exactly what the team total was, it's pretty much impossible to find out unless you go on Twitter and somebody potentially picked it as a play of the day, so to speak. But in terms of finding team totals from past games, it's pretty difficult to come by. But in terms of finding spreads and totals for the full game, as well as the first half of just the overall game, you can find those out on SBR odds, and they have all the lines listed for you if you just use the calendar function. So I hope, Matt, that answered your question. But I have to save you a lot of trouble. The Yankees definitely went over yesterday, and the team totals, they scored 10 runs. But in terms of the rest of the leans, next game we're going to talk about is between the Padres and the Orioles. Lean to the Padres minus 1.5 here. You have Allen versus Yacobonis. Baltimore's terrible. I don't think that really needs to be restated. Padres did choke away a massive lead in the last game against the Pirates, in which they blew a 3-run lead in the 9th inning and the 11th inning. But overall, the Padres have actually played pretty good ball lately and had the significantly better team. Logan Allen was great in his first start against the Brewers. Yacobonis 1-1 with a 4.7 ERA. In terms of that, I lean to the Padres. I think that overall, the Padres should win this game pretty easily, and I like them at -1.5 as you will get 9 full at bats because they are the away team. Yeah, according to Will Caesar, they are at 6.5. That sounds reasonable to me, as the fact that the Yankees, because of the fact they were huge favorites, and because of the fact the total was at 10.5, they expected the Yankees to win pretty much by at least 2 runs. And if you have a total of 10.5, that means you're projecting roughly a 6.5 to 4 kind of game. So for me, I think 6.5 sounds reasonable. -135 does sound a little bit juicy there, and I think you might have to shop around for some books that might have better lines. But 6.5 definitely sounds relatively accurate for the actual total. So thank you, Will, for answering that, and Matt, thanks for addressing that as well. But I don't know. We shall see. But overall, looking at the rest of the card here, you have the White Sox versus the Red Sox in that one. We recommended a play on the White Sox first half money line, which ended up tying yesterday because of the fact they gave up a run in the 5th inning. But you have Fulmer versus Price. I lean to the over 10 in this one. Money is poured in on the over. It went up at 9.5, up to 10.5 in some spots, but it's mostly at 10 market wide. Price has been inconsistent this year. Fulmer's relative unknown, but he has not been great this season. 1-1 with a 6.35 ERA. I expect to see a decent amount of runs here. Lean to the over in that one. Moving on, you have the Braves versus the Cubs with Fried versus Alzola. And in terms of that game, I would lean to the Braves in that one. Alzola is a new pitcher. He hasn't pitched yet in the majors. And I'm sorry, he has pitched once in the majors. He's 1-0 with a 2.25 ERA, pretty solid, but he only went 4 innings, gave 1 earned run. I think the Braves will bounce back quite nicely, and I know the wind is going to be blowing out heavily in Wrigley. You're supposed to have roughly 14-mile-an-hour winds blowing out straight to center field. I think you should see a lot of runs. I'll lean to the over, and I think the Braves should get the job done in that one. Lean to the Braves and the over in that game. Moving on, you also have the Mariners versus the Brewers with Davies versus Gonzalez. I lean to the Brewers in that one. Gonzalez has been pretty solid this season, but he has struggled over the last month or so. Same thing with Davies. Davies was great in the beginning of the season. He has been a little bit more consistent lately, but I still like him as a pitcher, and the Brewers have played better ball after dropping those opening 2 games to the Reds. They have been playing a lot better. Lean to the Brewers on that one. Moving on, you have the Astros versus the Pirates. Cole is roughly a -280 favorite, and a lot of that has to do with the fact that Houston's finally back at home. Altuve's back in the lineup, and Trevor Williams was awful in his first start against the Tigers since coming back from the IL. However, I don't like laying a huge price with Cole. I said this before. He tends to strike out a lot of batters, but he tends to give up a lot of hits. I'll lean to the over 8.5 there. I think you should see at least 4 runs by each team, so I will lean to the over. A quick question, actually, by Vegas Gold. Do I like the Philly team total over? For me, the answer has to be yes on that one. You have Lockett, who's pitching. Total's at 10.5, but Lockett's pitching, who had an awful first start. He currently has an ERA of 23.14. Not to mention the fact that the Mets have one of the worst bullpens in baseball, and you also will be having a lot of wind, as you're expecting roughly 10 miles an hour of wind blowing out to right field. I think there should be a lot of runs in that game. I think Lockett will struggle. I think the Mets bullpen will struggle. I pretty much think the Mets are just going to struggle entirely in that game. I think the Phillies can easily score 7 or 8 runs, and I will lean to the over on the team total in that one. So I hope that answers your question, Vegas. Moving on to the rest of the betting card, you have the Rays versus the Twins with Snell versus Gibson. I lean to Snell and the Rays in this one at a small underdog price. If you look at the lines right now, Rays are roughly a -105 underdog, give or take. Depends on what market you're using. But overall, it's pretty much even. For me, Gibson has been solid lately, but overall, he's been pretty inconsistent in his career, or he's been consistently average, however you want to phrase it. Snell is still the better pitcher by far. Won the AL Cy Young last year, and I like the way the Rays have been playing. I know they ended up getting swept by the Yankees, but the Yankees have been rolling, and I still like I think the Twins have I think they have a great team, but I definitely like Snell in the spot, and I think the Rays should win. And I think at -105, you're getting too much value on the Rays, so lean to Tampa Bay there. Moving on, you have the Cardinals versus Oakland with Bassett versus Flaherty. I lean to the under 9 here. Bassett and Flaherty have been pretty solid so far this season, and they have been pretty solid over the last couple of months. Flaherty is 4-4 with a 4.24 ERA, but he has been a lot better at home than he has been on the road. Bassett's 4-3 with a 3.64 ERA. He has been very solid this season, pleasant surprise for the A's, and I definitely think that 9 is too high of a total, so I will lean to the under in that game. Moving on, you have the Dodgers versus the Diamondbacks with Ray versus Stripling. Lean to the over 9.5 there. Ray has been pretty inconsistent this year, and against the Rockies in his last start, he had a huge issue with his walks, where Stripling has been okay this season. Dodgers lineup has been pretty good lately, and the Diamondbacks lineup woke up yesterday as they ended up scoring 8 runs. I lean to the over in that one. I can see Stripling struggling. I can see Ray struggling. I think this total is too low. I will lean to the over 9.5 in that one. Moving on, you have the Rockies versus the Giants with Bumgarner versus Gonzalez. Chichi Gonzalez will be making his first start of the season. However, he has a 4.54 ERA in the majors, and he has a 4-8 record in 13 career starts. However, in terms of this game itself, I'd have to lean to the Rockies here. I know that Bumgarner's on the mound, and I get that, but there's no way the Giants should be a -150-something favorite in this game. Giants lineup simply can't score, and they got shut out yesterday by John Gray and co. The Rockies arguably should have swept the Dodgers if their bullpen was able to hold a lead for once. And Bumgarner's been good, but his record hasn't been great, as he's currently 3-7 with a 4.28 ERA. For me, I think there's value on the Rockies, especially with the fact that the Giants simply can't score runs. Do I think the Rockies will win this game? Probably not. But at the same point, I don't think the Giants should be a -150, -160 favorite. So I think there is value on the Rockies in that one. And moving on, the last game, you have the Reds versus the Angels with Molly versus Heaney. Lean to the Angels there. Reds were playing good ball. Then they ended up losing a couple of games in a row to the Brewers, and they have lost each of the last 2 games. Meanwhile, the Angels ended up concluding that series against the Cardinals with a nice win. And Pujols has played well lately. Ohtani's still great. And Trout is pretty much the favorite to win the AL MVP again. Lean to the Angels at home in that one as they look to get back to 500. But the play of the day will be on the Cleveland Indians and the Kansas City Royals under 9.5, which is available at -114 at Pinnacle. Before we conclude today's video, quick reminder of our sponsor, PointsBet, online sportsbook in New Jersey. A couple of great deals for you. Currently, they have up to 2 risk-free bets up to $1,000. So if you end up betting $1,000 on 2 separate games, you are betting with virtual house money, as even if you lose, you will get your money back into your account and don't have to worry about going bankrupt on a Tuesday. So that's definitely something good to keep in mind. But with that being said, that's going to do it for this installment of Scott's Selections here for Tuesday, June 25th. Good luck to all of you and your respective plays today. Bye, everyone.